Hello, my dear friends. I know that there's no excuse regarding my such long faulty, but from this moment onwards, the flow of my channel will be continuous. Today, I've come up to narrate two real ghost stories and our recent occurrences. The first story is about a strange occurrence at the time of burial, and the second story is about the sleep paralysis. And before continuing with the narration, I would like to add on that if you all have any stories that you want to share, then please feel free to share at the email mentioned in the description below. So, let's start. My granddad was a man who couldn't stay put. After my grandma died giving birth, he just started moving all over with my dad and uncle when they were little. They did pack up and go to new places all the time. Sometimes just around the corner, other times to far off states with hardly any people or even a proper phone line. Later, Grandpa got married again and had 2 more kids. Without disclosing their actual names, let's assume they are P and B, where P and B are both my uncles. Uncle B is just 3 years older than me. Growing up, my dad would sometimes lose touch with Grandpa because they did moved to some place without phones. We did get a postcard or a letter out of the blue telling us where they were, but by the time we did write back, they did be gone again. Uncle B eventually settled down, but Uncle P, Aunt M, my cousins T and L, and my grandparents kept on moving, just like Grandpa always did. Because of all this moving around, I didn't really get to know Grandpa that well or keep many memories of him. All I know is that he loved a good adventure and wasn't scared to start over, no matter what. I think he was a religious man at some point, what with being related to a bishop and having fought in the Cristero War. But then, in January 1999, Grandpa took his own life. They had to take his body to the coroner, so we didn't have a wake or anything. Uncle P decided Grandpa should be buried next to Grandma. So after the funeral mass, they drove him over 250 kilometers to the cemetery. Not long after he died, my mom lit a candle for him and prayed. One day, she had to go out, so she put the candle on the living room floor to be safe. When she came back, she saw the candle slid across the floor by itself. It's been 21 years since Grandpa passed. I went to Mexico last month and had a good time with Uncle B and his family. We talked about a lot of things and somehow we got to talking about Grandpa's death. Uncle B told me something weird that happened at the funeral. There was no wake, but they still had a hearse to take Grandpa from the coroners to the church and then to the cemetery. Uncle B, Cousin T, and two guys from the funeral home were carrying the casket into the church when it suddenly felt super heavy, like it was filled with rocks. Uncle B thought it was just the sadness hitting him, but he kept going. Inside the church, the casket felt normal again. After the service, Uncle B wondered if it would feel heavy again, but it didn't. He didn't talk about it for a long time until Cousin T said he felt the same thing. They figured Grandpa didn't want to go to church that day, maybe because he regretted how he died or was scared of what was waiting for him after. The story was actually quite impressive and spooky towards the end. It might not have the hair erecting elements in the story, but even this slightest bit of occurrence is enough to raise eternal questions and reasoning to figure out the following incident. This incident is not easily noticeable to the people as they were in such a saddened state of mind, but after recovery, it surely would hit like a truck. I have to give the credits to the one who took out his or her time to post it on the internet. Also, I give my condolences and pray for a beautiful afterlife for your grandfather. Story number 2. The mystery of my childhood paralysis. Hey there, fellow seekers of the strange. Gather round and let me share a tale from my past. A story that defies explanation. When I was just 11, my parents split up and life took a curious turn. You see, my dad's house held a secret, a room that whispered of forgotten days. It was the master bedroom, and little did I know it was the last remnant of a house built in the 1950s. What happened there? Well, that's where things get eerie. So, picture this. Every night, as I drifted off to sleep in the master bedroom, my body would betray me. Slowly, like a creeping fog, paralysis would set in. At first, fear ignored at me, but eventually, I accepted it as part of my nightly routine. Oddly enough, this strange phenomenon only haunted me at Dad's place, never at Mom's. But then, something changed. After encountering what I believe was the spirit of a little girl, the paralysis vanished. Gone. Proof? Years later, I learned about sleep paralysis, the textbook definition. But my experience didn't fit the mold. You see, most folks report shadowy figures, dark shapes lurking in the room. Not me. Here's the twist. Whenever I slept on my back. No matter whose house I was in, the paralysis returned. It came with a twist. No shadowy specters for me. Instead, my mind conjured bizarre hallucinations. Picture this: my bedside light glitching like a digital hiccup, a buzzing in my ear that felt like a swarm of angry bees, and a pillowcase floating before my eyes. Oh, and let's not forget the peace, the resistance, a tall blue blob inching towards me, whispering the name El Chapo. Yeah, you heard that right. To break free, I did chant, "It's not real," or wiggle out of it, just like I did as a kid. But here's the $1,000,000 question. Why do no shadowy figures? Am I the odd one out? Or is there something else at play? I have ditched sleeping on my back to avoid these trippy episodes, but the mystery lingers. What's your take? And there you have it, the enigma of my childhood paralysis. If you ever danced with a bizarre or have theories to share, drop me a line. Maybe we will unravel this together. Until next time, keep your eyes open, even when the world blinks. Good night, my fellow wanderers. And also, feel free to share this story with others. And who knows, maybe someone out there has their own twist to add. So, this was a bit with a chilly atmosphere. The essence of mental drifting or hallucinations are clearly evident. I hope the victim who wrote this is in the stage of recovery, as if it were to happen to me, then there would be nothing else or no input from my side except for praying to God. And here we mark the end to this video, hoping that you all would have liked the video even for a little bit. If not, then let's pretend that I'm the best. And sorry for such a bad joke. Now, before bidding farewell until the next video, I would like you all to convey your feelings regarding this video in the comments, and if you all do have any stories of your own or have heard from other victims, then please feel free to share to the email mentioned in the description below. Good night, wanderers. Drift off to sleep.